Hello, IML students. Today we are going to talk about pending orders, also known as buy orders, sell orders, limits, stops, all of that. We're going to talk about it today. Let's get ready. Upon finishing this video, you should have a very good understanding of the following questions. Read through them quietly to yourself. As you are taking notes, make sure to pause this video in order to answer these questions. Here is some important vocabulary that you may want to pause the video in order to write down. When you are finished, go ahead and resume. Before I actually start talking about different types of orders, let me just say that a pending order is an order that you would actually set in order to not have to sit at the computer screen all day or your phone and, check it all day. It's kind of like what I call like a set it and forget it order. It's an order that you set so that later on it can happen. If price is here, but it's not where you want it to be, you set this order so that in the event that price gets to where you want it to be, then your order will get activated. Okay, so that's what a pending order is for. You've got two different types. You've got an instant execution, and then you've got a pending order. Instant execution means that you're automatically into the market. The moment you press buy or sell, you are in it. But a pending order, you can press buy or sell, and it won't actually activate your order until after it's crossed a threshold. The first order that I want to talk to you guys about are stop orders. In a stop order, a threshold will have to be crossed. Notice I say this, make sure you hear me right now, has to be crossed only once, only one time before you are entered in the trade. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you what I mean. Stop orders are like a race. Once you cross the threshold, you are entered into the race. So you see this picture that I have where these, you got this motorcycle ski looking thing and a car, all right? And right before they cross this line, they're not in the race yet. They're not in the race until after they cross the threshold. Or think about track runners. They're always behind a line. They're on their blocks and behind the line. The moment they cross the threshold, they're in. Okay? That is what a stop order is all about. The moment you cross it one time, you are in the trade. So you see in this example right here, a sell stop. You place an order below market price, expecting price to drop. When the threshold is crossed, you're entered into the trade. Let me say this again. I want you to look at the picture, okay? You see how price is going upward, it's going up and down and up and down. It looks like it's moving up and then it turns. So now we're going to assume that maybe price wants to go down. It's made a turn. Now maybe it's going to go down. Now I don't really feel like sitting at my computer screen and waiting for price to get there. So I'm going to set my sell stop where that green dotted line is. And if price so happens to continue to move down, then I will be entered into the trade. That is a sell stop. Notice how it only has to cross the threshold one time. Now, in this picture, you see price has actually crossed the threshold. So now I am in the trade. I'm in the trade. Why? Because price did what I thought it was going to do. I thought it was going to go down. It was going to continue to go down. And it did. So now I'm entered into the trade. Yay, life is good. Now, what happens if that doesn't actually happen? What happens if price never made it down there to that green dotted line? Let's say price kind of was, where it was at before, and then it just continued to move higher. I would never be entered into the trade until it crosses that green line, okay? So some people like to set, pending orders like a sell stop or buy stop because it brings them security, knowing that, well, if price doesn't do what I wanted it to do, then I don't lose any money anyway, okay? Because if you would have entered that on an instant execution thinking that it was going to go down, you would have lost money. But hey, that's the risk we take. I'm big on showing you real life examples. So, it's always easy to show a really pretty picture, of perfect drawing. So now I want to show you an actual picture. So you see here how price was going down, or excuse me, it looks like it's going down. And hopefully you understand, what a sell looks like, what a buy looks like. If you don't, please go back and check out my video that I created on what a buy looks like, what a sell looks like. All right. So we're assuming price is going to go down. Remember, keyword, I am assuming. Maybe I drew up my chart. Maybe I, created if-then statements. If price comes here, then I do this, and you'll understand this from support and resistance video that I was just talking about. If price does this, then that. So I'm going to assume that if price comes down here, then I want to be in a sell. So price comes down and I'm assuming that, okay, price is going to come down here. I want to be entered. So that's the actual picture. We just finished talking about a sell stop, guys. A buy stop is pretty much the same thing. It's just a buy version. All right. Same, everything applies. Right now, you're not currently entered in trade because threshold has not been crossed. You're expecting that price is going to continue to make its upward movement. All right. We're expecting price is going to rise, but we're not actually in the trade until the threshold has been crossed. So now you see that the threshold has been crossed, so I'm entered into the trade. A buy stop is just like a buy. It's regular. You expect price to rise. The stop is what makes it as though, hey, you only have to cross the threshold once. Keep the idea of, like a race in your mind, at the forefront of a race, okay? Keep that in your mind. To recap, a stop order is when price crosses the threshold and continues in the current direction. See, the key is that it continues in the current direction. So remember, if it's a buy stop, if you set a buy, that means price, once it activates that area, it will continue going in that same direction, up and away. If it's a sell stop, it will continue to move down once it crosses that line in that current direction. So we've talked about what a stop order is. Now let's talk about limit orders. A limit order is when a threshold has to be crossed before you are entering in the trade with the expectation that price is going to turn around and go in a different direction. Okay, so if you look at this picture, limit orders are like a boomerang, all right? So you throw it and it comes back. Or like a U-turn, all right? It's another way of looking at it. Price has to go one way before it goes the other. So an example, up before it goes down, or down before it goes up. Okay, so you're expecting that price is going to continue for a little while, and then it will eventually turn around like a U-turn. So an example of a limit is let's use a sell limit. So you see on the word, it says you place an order above market price, which is different than a sell stop. If you were doing a sell stop, you would place it below market price. Okay. When I say market price, I'm talking about where the market is currently at. All right. So price then has to climb higher before it turns around and falls. Then you'll be entered into the trade. Okay, so as of right now, you're currently not in the trade. Why? Because it has not crossed the threshold. The moment it touches that line, you are activated. The moment it touches. Here's an example of the sell limit that you was just looking at. It has now been activated. Why? Because it has actually touched the threshold and now it's activated. So what happened? You placed an order above market price, remember? And then price had to climb higher. So it did climb higher before it turns around and then falls. Then you are entered into the trade. So as you see, that's what happened here. Now, let me give you more of an actual example of when you would use a sell limit, or how would that apply like in real life, not necessarily just in the market. Think about a house. If you own a house, think about the fact that you have a house. Maybe the market is bad at the time. Whatever the going rate is not what you want for your house. You know that you can get better for your house if you wait it out, wait for the market to turn around again. So what do? You hold on to it and you decide that I will sell this house when it reaches this price, when the asking price reaches this amount, then I will sell it. So what are you doing? You're waiting for the market price to climb higher. So that's a conceptual way of understanding what's happening. Here's an actual picture of what it looks like in the market. Something to keep in mind, it's not always going to look very pretty, like how, the market came up to the line and just turned around immediately after touching it. That's not always the way it's going to look. Sometimes price is going to continue to climb higher before it turns around. And in worst case scenarios, it might actually hit your stop loss. So that's also something to keep in mind that they do. This is just something to use as part of a strategy. Here's a buy limit now. A buy limit is different in that you place an order below market price. See, that dotted line represents market price. Price then needs to go lower before it turns around and rises. Then you will be entered into the trade. So first of all, let me explain this to you conceptually. Think about you. You know who you are. You who likes to shop and find a deal wherever you go. You get a high out of finding a deal. How many of you have ever gone out and you've decided, oh, I really like that outfit, or I like that chair, or whatever. I like that couch, but this store does have clearances. I'm going to come back. I'm going to wait for the price to drop a little bit and then I'll buy it. All right. Some of you are like that. And that's kind of what's happening with a buy limit. Right now, price is too expensive, but you are agreeing that if price reaches this lower price, I will buy it the moment price is at this point. Okay. That's what that means conceptually. So here is the exact same order. Now it's actually been activated. And the other one, it wasn't activated. Why? Because it had not yet approached the line. But now that the threshold has been crossed and it's actually turning around, which is great. You are now able to be a happy person because your buy limit has activated the way you want it. However, that doesn't always happen. If that line is touched, the order is activated. And there are times where maybe price wants to continue to go lower. And again, in that situation, your stop loss can get hit. Here is a real life example of what it would look like in the market with actual candlesticks, because pictures can look prettier than they really do look in the market. So as you see here, price has dropped a little bit past the line or the threshold that was agreed upon, but that's okay because hopefully it will still turn around. That doesn't always happen, but as you get it, hopefully you're understanding a limit price has to turn around. That's what you want. You want it to turn around. Finally, to recap, limit orders. As you know, as soon as the threshold is crossed, trade is activated. Now that is similar to a stop order. Once the threshold's crossed, the trade is activated. What is different about it? A limit order is you are expecting for price to turn around in a different direction. So for instance, you're expecting price to go down lower before you buy, or you're expecting price to go up higher before you sell. So what is that? That motion is like a U-turn or like a boomerang, whereas a stop order is just, it goes continuously through. It just continues in the same direction. So that's the difference. As you see here, it's active once the threshold is crossed. If the threshold never crosses, but it still does what you want. See how it never actually touched the dotted line? That's happened to me. Made me really upset. How many of you felt that way? Anyhow, as you see, if it's never actually touched the threshold, it won't be activated, even if it did what you wanted it to do. So here you have it. Here's a picture that has all four of them on the same screen. This is a good time to possibly, screenshot it. You can see in all of them. It kind of gives you an idea. It's either going to cross the threshold once, it's going to cross it twice. It's got to go down before it goes up. Screenshot this for your note, or if you're taking notes, write this down so that you can reference it for later. This is a picture of your trading window when you select pending order. It's not actually going to say pending order. Instead, you're going to see buy limit, sell limit, buy stop, sell stop. You select either one. Something I want to point out is that notice you'll see price only in this window. And the reason why you'll see price in this window is because you get to set the price for this time around. If you were doing a market execution, you would not be able to actually set that price. Everything else should be about the same. The other thing that would be different would be an expiration. I strongly advise that you set an expiration for your pending orders. Depending on how long you like to hold a trade, if you're more of a day trader or an intraday trader, someone who likes to hold a trade within a week or so, you need to set an expiration for at least 7 days, or a maximum of 7 days. The last thing you want to do is forget about your pending order and then it accidentally get activated when you don't want it. By now, you should have a good understanding of the following questions.